I've yet met him, but we'll meet him here in a second. He's gonna present something for us. Ned's not quite here yet. We got Johnny, we got Bill, we got Juan with us. So neat stuff. So welcome, and this should be a lot of fun. We got a really modded up Amiga 500. Let me just go ahead and switch the camera here so you can kind of get a look at it. Matter of fact, if you could just basically introduce yourself for us. Hang on a second. Let me just get the camera on you. And there we go. All right. So, yeah, introduce yourself, please.
Hey, hi. I'm Stephen Wiley, and I'm living in South Fort Worth most of my life, I guess, but I'm a relatively recent convert to the Amiga scene. So I got this Amiga 500 late last year from a fellow who was just giving it away in Plano. Saw the little thing come up on the retro computing meetup group here, where somebody had one that just wanted to part with, and I said, okay, I work in Plano too. I'm going to come and grab it after work, so I did. And now I got a new friend.
Oh, nice. Well, can you show us a little bit more about your Amiga?
Totally, yeah. So the first thing I want to talk about is the condition I got it in the first place.
Oh, nice.
A lot of the keys and a lot of dirt grime on them, stuff like that. So actually, over the last weekend, I worked on kind of brightening it up for you guys, and I thought that instead of going all the way with it, you might kind of like to see what a difference it makes when you go through and use some of these various techniques on the backpack here. So there's a popular product called Retro Bright, which people make with hydrogen peroxide, but
oh yeah, I've used it on like my Beige Atari computers.
Yeah, totally. So Retro Bright has a little bit of a disadvantage in that it can be kind of grainy, and you got to mix it all up real well, and it can actually expire. And if you let it expire, it's not quite as effective, or it can give you some really strange types of effects when you go and do your whitening. Now, one thing that's actually even cheaper and requires less effort than the whole Retro Bright business is just use some really simple cream developer for bleaching your hair. So it turns out this whole bottle was about $3.50 from Valley Beauty Supply. And all you have to do is just kind of unscrew it and pour it on. And then I use a paintbrush to smooth it out. And since we're here in the hot Texas summer, it's really convenient because I can just put this on a table outside and leave it outside in the sun so that the hydrogen peroxide really sets in and it bleaches the whole plastic out. So it turns it nice and white, and you can see, I guess now that the CPU's halted, I can kind of move it around and be a little bit less anxious about what it's going to do.
Got a question from our end, by the way. He's online.
Mm-hmm.
He's asking if you can buy Retro Bright or if you have to make it.
Well, this stuff you can just buy from the beauty supply store. Now, as far as regular Retro Bright, it's not that difficult to make for yourself. A lot of people, I think, just buy the components from the store. Like, you just need some hydrogen peroxide, and you can dilute that with some water. Other people have other things they dilute with, like OxyClean spray.
Okay.
Because the OxyClean is there to basically help reoxidize the plastic. Because what's happening is the plastic contains the various, a bromine solution inside of it. Some chemicals relating to bromine that are fire retardant. And bromine acid chemicals are very sensitive to UV light. And when exposed to UV and exposed to, just even air in general, these things it'll reduce themselves and let out these free radicals. The idea here with the OxyClean that you put into the Retro Bright is to reoxidize the plastic to try to restore its condition, make it a little bit less brittle, and so on. The cream developer also kind of has the same effect a little bit too, and just has, perhaps even some soy nutrients in it which can help rejuvenate the plastics as well. It's good for your head. It's got to be good for those too, right?
Right.
Yeah, so I don't know if you want to wheel the camera up a little bit closer.
Oh, we'll just change the angle a little bit.
Actually, I could probably just wheel this over there too. So
don't you worry about it. We got this. We got
this facing y'all. Just tell me when it looks good.
Ah, here it is.
So you can see that I've done various stuff on the left with the retro bright, especially F1 through F5 and all the letter keys. And on the right side are the keys that haven't been cleaned off yet or not retro brighted. You can see there's like a significant amount of yellowing still left on these guys. And of course, a lot of dust, a lot of grime on these as well, so I hadn't quite scrubbed them off and cleaned them up yet.
Yeah.
I got rid of all the dust in here, luckily. So, also, just to show you the side of this, I did the top cover, but not the bottom panel yet. So you can see, I'm assuming,
Mm-hmm. Oh, it looks great. Yeah.
yeah, the difference in there.
Yeah.
The two colors in there. Obviously, the top part was retro bright apply, and the bottom part not yet.
Okay. Yeah, you can definitely see the difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let me get you a little bit closer here on the keys too, so you can see that nice and good.
Yeah. Yeah. Looks really nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so this was a project that pretty much only took about 4 hours of the Texas sun.
Uh-huh.
4 hours of Texas sun got it to look this nice.
Wow.
And, the retro bright process was really nice on ABS types of plastics. It can be a little bit dicey to do with other things. Chemical composition of the plastic. And the other thing that was interesting, though, there's a particular archival museum, I guess, I think it was in Switzerland or something. It was actually trying to dissuade people from using retro bright because it ends up kind of changing the chemical composition of the plastic too.
Yeah.
And ultimately what can happen is that if you apply retro bright, it might actually cause it to yellow faster the next time around. So it takes a long time to yellow, and it takes a little bit less time, and so on. It's yellowing rapidly,
Mm-hmm.
But
I always wondered if it made the plastic more fragile over time too.
it shouldn't. It should actually be helpful to the plastic to keep them fresh and resilient and not quite so brittle.
Okay.
I had an article up here that I pulled out. Let's see, and especially if you have other types of plastic like PVC or polyethylene or polystyrene,
Mm-hmm.
the Danish group that was experimenting with retrofit actually did notice that I guess it marred the surface or observed visual changes in the surface. So they did not recommend using the process at all. But I guess it depends on if you don't care about some surface variations,
Mm-hmm.
but you just want white, then go for it. Otherwise, if you can't stand having the thought of any particular surface variations on here at all, then it's safer if it's with ABS plastic, but if it's not ABS, then maybe you should avoid it.
Okay. One question that's come up here online is they're asking if RetroBright could potentially remove characters off the keyboard.
That's a good question. My wife is really big into keyboards, and certain types of keys that are double shot PVT, and that's where basically the letters really nicely embedded into the key. It'll never ever come off. The key won't even become shiny.
Yeah.
And it won't come off of that in any regard. Now, if it's just really cheap ink and so on, then you could actually cause the keys to wear off just by typing on for a long period of time. I had a keyboard back in middle school, and basically all the letters wore off after a lot of expensive use.
Yeah. So, just aside from regular wear, the RetroBright won't do any more damage to it.
No, however, I'd advise against letting it spend too long in the sun. I had a Texas Instruments keyboard where I actually had the stuff in a baggie. I had all the keys in a baggie and dumped a bunch of the Cream Developer stuff inside the baggie too, and I put it out in the sun and I flip it around a whole bunch, really cover it well. And I think for about a week I was doing this, and once I finally took the keys out, I realized, whoops, some of these are actually kind of starting to crack a little bit.
Huh.
So I think it wore down the plastic way too much to leave it out for that long of a time. Now, as far as the letters are still there, but some of the keys actually, well, the reason I did that was because the keys didn't seem to be evenly, I guess, whitening back up. So I wanted to really whiten the craziness out of them all told. So that's why I left it in there for so long. But it also produced this weird, what do they call it? The kind of like a dithering type of effect, I guess, or It's blooming, as they call it on the internet. Blooms, where you kind of see almost like a marbling type of effect, I guess. And they say that it's possible to kind of smooth out the marbling effect by simply leaving it in the sun for a little bit so it kind of re-evens itself back out. Because even with, for instance, an old Apple mouse that I had, you can still see kind of where you paint this on with a paintbrush. You know how paint sometimes has little striations in it, striations, especially if you look close to an art gallery. You can kind of see where it had whitened really nice and deeply, where it was deep with the cream developer, but then not so, still a little bit yellow as well. Kind of like how the striations of the paint would go when you paint it with a brush. So that's kind of stuff you can eventually smooth out by just leaving it in the sun for a little bit. So.
Another MacBook Air user. How cool.
Yeah, that's my work laptop. They granted us with Mac Airs, and I wanted to show the nice convenience, the key puller tool.
Ooh.
That you can use to simply go in there and, I guess, wheel this around to show you guys nice and good. So the technique for removing a key, I'm assuming you can see where I'm at.
Yeah,
okay,
we're
cool.
great.
Yeah, so if you take that, kind of press it in there nice, then it's around the key, you can twist it like this so it's around the corners of the key. Now, I found that for the Amiga, it's best to kind of hold on to it because there's a spring underneath all these keys, and the spring could go flying out like crazy if you're not careful. So if you kind of tweak it a little bit downward, and the downward, like don't tweak it upward, but tweak it downward, it tends to come off nice and easy. And with just a little bit of rotation, there it goes. And you can, there's my spring down here too. So spring goes underneath the key, and that guy came right off nice and easily, as you can see. And then I can just plop that right back on. And there it is, good as new.
Very nice. A lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
So where'd you get that tool again?
Probably, Stacy, my wife, bought this from like AliExpress, I'd imagine, or some particular website that deals a lot with keyboards. There's another resource called Get Authority.
Yeah.
Like authority, but for deck.
Okay.
And they talk a lot about keyboard stuff there. Now, for the other ones that have spacers underneath, like the space bar or the shift keys, it's a bit of a different technique. You can simply you can take both of these little tines on it, and squish them together, and then you can kind of wedge them under your shift key and kind of pry upward a little bit on it so that it will cause the the spacer thing is kind of clamped in
Yeah, I know what you mean.
by the two clamps. And the idea is you kind of want to pry it so the spacer thing comes out and it frees itself. So you can pull it up and then you can undo the two little other things that's on it as well. So I guess with a little bit more effort, it probably wouldn't hurt to demonstrate that, I guess, a bit for those of you who haven't seen this or it's been a little while.
The way those things are put in with that little bar behind it.
Mm-hmm.
We'll give it 10 seconds and we'll give you a pass.
Yeah, it's shift is being a little troublesome. Maybe I could try the tab key. It's a bit smaller. There we are. That came up nice and easily.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's a little bit more effort, and as you can see, this is kind of the mechanism I'm talking about.
Uh-huh.
Where I'll fold this down, and
okay, let me make sure we're good to go. Yeah, okay. So there it is. Yep.
yeah, so there's that little stabilizer bar. You can see it kind of hanging off of there,
Yeah.
and the little two, I guess the two white pieces. Like flip that down a little bit more.
Okay.
That it's attached to. Now, the interesting thing I found with the even bigger keys, like the enter key and the space bar, is that you actually have some Cherry MX style stabilizers in there as well.
Yeah.
And as you're pulling the keys out, be careful that you don't lose these stabilizers because they're very small.
Okay. Very neat.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. So, so the question is, okay, now did you ever play with the Amiga much before you got this Amiga?
No, to be honest, I was basically just an IBM PC compatible guy. My first computer parents got me when I was 5 was the Tandy 1000.
Oh, nice.
And at the time, it was one of their later models. I think it was only the third one before they discontinued it. This was the 1000 RLX in particular. It had a 20 megabyte hard drive,
Yeah.
3.5-inch disk drive, and an EGA color monitor. It was like 12, 13 inches maybe.
Okay, so mostly it's been like IBM or IBM compatible.
Yeah,
Like
definitely.
Did you ever get King's Quest for the Tandy 1000?
Never got King's Quest, but the day is coming. Because I really want to be able to take it to shows and you have people play some of the stuff they remember. Now, the stuff that I remember for it, being that I was 5 years old, would have been stuff like Treasure Mountain or Super Solver, Spellbound, or Outnumbered, or some of the math blasters or the educational games.
Yeah, those are good.
Mm-hmm.
I got a hold of a Tandy 1000 there for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Played with it, somebody. Matter of fact, one of you guys, I think, hooked me up with her, and I believe, and she had some stuff she needed to get off of it, and when she was done with it, she just passed it my way.
Mm-hmm.
And I passed it on to somebody else who wanted to play with it.
Nice.
That one had a built-in hard drive and everything.
Cool.
So,
Yeah, it's always fun to pass stuff around to people and explore something different.
Oh yeah, I see a bunch of wires.
There are a bunch of wires.
Holy mackerel, what have you done to this thing?
So actually, it's not what I did to it, but the guy before me was interested in applying the overclocking mod.
Okay, nice.
Mm-hmm. So what we have here,
Is that the 68010 mod or what?
it is, I don't think it's quite the 6810. It's still a 68,000,
Sure.
but it's the version of it that's flavored to run at 16 megahertz.
Okay.
So
That's actually a pretty good trick on an Amiga too. I mean,
yeah, I guess, I was just reading up on this thing before the meeting that people have actually figured out, I guess, a way to get these up to 40 megahertz somehow.
I believe it.
Hmm. But, this is the original mod from back in the day. I found the documentation with it still available at, which website was it?
Let's see, and of course it goes away. Okay, getting closer. This is from AMInet.net.
Aminet. Okay, yeah.
And Aminet was a source for where I could find details on this thing, because when I first got the Amiga, not only was it dirty, but one of these wires had actually come up. And so I didn't know how to plug it back in. I didn't know where it should go. I didn't know if the thing would actually work without it being in there or what. Because, I was in here to try to look at the capacitors anyway, because the first thing I do before turning on a brand new machine to me is to check the capacitors, make sure nothing's totally going to blow up.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, you have this guy decided to put in a little toggle switch, and with that you can toggle it to run at either 7 megahertz or 14 megahertz.
Nice.
And got a little 7474 chip in here that's kind of driving the whole thing. I guess it's kind of short-circuiting one of these signals and doing some analysis or tweaks on it before it sends it out to the processor. I forget exactly what the 7474 does.
Yeah, you got me on
But
that.
it's just one of the basic old logic chips from back in the day.
Now, is this like a daughter board type? I mean, kind of like a piggyback type 6800 type?
That's
Thank-
right into the socket.
No, this one's right into the socket.
That one's in the socket. Okay.
Mhm.
So, all right. So yeah, I was seeing something underneath the static guard there.
Yeah, actually there is something under the static guard. I had this here just so this wouldn't touch it and short it out because I didn't trust it.
Understood.
So
What is that?
this is why I'm here.
Oh, sure. You okay? Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the in-division flicker fixer and scan doubler.
Okay.
So this little guy basically has some memory on it that, the typical signal coming out of the RGB port or the composite port is going to be interlaced. And what this does is it deinterlaces it. It has some memory in there, so it can actually show a full frame at the same data rate, the same hertz refresh rate that the TV is expecting. So with this piece, you can actually use a modern VGA monitor. Hopefully you can see this VGA port that's hooked in right in there.
Yeah. Let's take a check. Yep. I can see it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, so without even having to bother with an A520 or the composite jack or any other chicanery. You can just go straight to the VGA port. And luckily, it just so happens to work with the TV in this room right away without any type of modification or messing with the screen resolution or so on.
Yeah.
Now, I've found in my experience that, I can't just recommend this thing straight out of the box, though. It took a little bit of tweaking for me to find out something that it would work with.
Okay.
Because it's only VGA, I don't really have any monitors at the house that are VGA compatible anymore. They're all at least DVI or HDMI.
Right.
Now, some of the newer in-division models, I mean, not necessarily newer per se, but some of the ones that work with more advanced Amiga models, such as the 3000 and the 4000, actually do have the capability for DVI output.
Uh-huh.
Then again, I guess that some of the nicer Amiga models actually already have scan doublers in them anyway, so I don't know how much you'd need the in-division chip to go with them.
Still on a 500, that's quite an upgrade there.
Yeah, this is a big upgrade because for a while, I could only hook this up to the composite and I only ever see it in black and white.
Oh yeah.
So by putting this in, I was finally able to see my Amiga in all the living color that it was sold to me as. It's like, oh, we can do so much color on an Amiga, but I can only ever see grayscale. Not anymore.
That's beautiful.
This guy fixes all that. So
was it hard to install, or what was involved with it?
no, basically you can see it has the original Denise chip up here on the socket.
Okay.
So the trickiest part was actually trying to pry the Denise chip out of the socket because I'm lazy. I didn't want to have to uninstall the whole board out of the chassis. So I cleverly used some tools to pry the original Denise chip up and pull it out of its socket. Then I popped this thing into the old Denise socket, and I popped the Denise chip into the other socket that exists on top of this thing.
Okay.
And there it is, voila. So
hey, we got a remark from Arend,
Mhm.
and I think Arend's from the Netherlands,
Mhm.
if I remember correctly. Anyway, he says the 7474 chip that we were talking about earlier
Mhm.
is a dual data flip-flop.
Okay.
That's what it is.
a dual D flip-flop. All right. So
Yeah. So he says you can divide the frequency with it by 2.
Mhm.
So yeah. So there you go. That's what that is.
cool, yeah. Because I guess if you're treating it like something that's going to toggle on the state, then it's going to be on off, and then it'll toggle again on off, and then on off, and so on.
Right?
Mhm. So
So
let's
back,
see. I had some
back to the pretty
websites.
colors.
Yeah, the pretty colors. So I guess I can plug this thing in again.
Yeah.
I think I'm done talking about the insides of this because I covered this and I covered that.
Yeah.
I covered the retro bright, and I'll put this guy back together and hook up the monitor
That is
over
amazing.
here. And with no further magic on my part, then I guess I'll plug these things back in too. Boy, I undid everything.
Yeah. What you got here? Da, 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 da.
Yep. Yeah, I guess, not usually what you see. I see most people to this meetup tend to bring the bigger computers, like the 3000 and the 4000, the proper Amiga, so to speak.
Well, we get some of that. We get some 4000s, but we've done a lot with 500s as well.
Cool.
About 2 years ago, I massively tinkered up one.
Nice.
In fact, Juan's got it now.
So the other thing that's kind of interesting here is I brought my original Amiga mouse, and
Okay, Amiga mouse.
yep, Giovanni and I were trying to play with this earlier, and I even tried swapping the mouse balls out of this one, put it in here. It didn't seem to help, so I don't know what's wrong with this guy in particular. Maybe some of the opto sensors inside of it need to be cleaned out.
Probably. I mean, you tried to clean it out really good, or?
Yeah, you can take a look. The rollers seem to be pretty clear on the inside.
Okay.
Just pass that around in the room here.
So there's one other thing to worry about on the Amiga, and that was what they call the CIA chips.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, it's pretty clean.
if the correct one goes out, and you lose your mouse.
Interesting. Well, luckily this
it was-
mouse
it
here
was in the
still
mouse.
works
It
wonderfully.
still works, okay.
This is Giovanni's mouse, and asked him to bring
So
it
you,
before the show.
okay, so you eliminated that, okay.
And then I'm pretty sure that, I even swapped the ball with him,
That's
and
like a 3000 mouse.
the ball didn't help. Yeah.
It is a 3000 mouse, yeah.
It is.
So let me make sure, because I'm pretty sure you had the textured one originally, and I did not. So I'm going to give you this one back.
That's your mouse? That's your mouse?
No.
No, it's not. Oh. I know you had one with this.
Stiff. It was so stiff.
Yeah,
Yeah, we've got a pretty stiff cable on there, unfortunately.
Why so fast?
Well, I guess it could use some of the retro bright on it, maybe to help unstiffen it. But I think it's a matter of getting it to work in the first place. Because, yeah, I tried to take this to a gaming convention, and of course, people are trying to play Minesweeper with a mouse. It doesn't quite work. Kind of a turn off a little bit. Oh, and then, yeah, so I took it out to the, what was it called? Back in Frisco, the retro, the video game festival back in Frisco that was, I guess, a couple months ago or so.
Yeah.
And had it over there in the free play arcade room. So a bunch of people's video game consoles and my PC were out there. And I guess the power in the room wasn't so great because eventually this thing started giving me a lot of guru meditation errors. And, this thing hadn't really done that in the past. And I was pretty worried about it. I assumed that maybe I'd, press that thing in too hard when I was installing that Indivision flicker fixer. And, luckily once I brought it back home and gave it some time to cool off, it turns out that the thing worked fine again. So I chalked it up to maybe just bad power in the room. Maybe there are so many things running that this thing wasn't getting the, some amount of current or voltage that it needed to actually stay sane. But the tricky part to me about installing the flicker fixer, besides actually prying out the Denise chip in there, is actually how hard to push down on that thing to get it to stay in. Because I was worried that the thing wasn't exactly, not all the pins were making good contact. And after a whole lot of pressing on it with all my might, I finally got it in there satisfactorily and nice and even.
Huh.
And lo and behold, it worked. Even though it seemed like some of the pins still weren't quite in there all the way. That's good enough.
Yeah.
I suppose I didn't want to test it too much because the guy from the website, I guess Individual Computers, who sells it, actually mentioned that these things aren't really rated for a whole lot of removal and insertion cycles. So if you do that too much, you'll end up having to replace a socket on your board.
right.
And I don't really feel like doing that. I've done it enough. And
That would be a pain.
yeah, some of the pinball machines I've had to remove the riot chips straight off the motherboard, to pull them out and replace it with a socket. I've done some socket work on IBM 5150 motherboards because some of the chip memory in those have died off over the years and I had to replace them. And it's just, kind of a task. And one time I was working on a Sega Master System and pulled up one of the traces. My wife was pretty unhappy about that. She's like, what kind of noob are you pulling up traces on your rework? It's not cool. So yeah, to show you the website for the flicker fixer, I guess real simple, the icomp.be is the vendor for it, and this is the picture of one of their more advanced ones for a newer, or I guess a higher model Amiga.
Okay.
The one that I have would be called the OCS or the ECS computer. And once I click on that, then of course this one's not online. Don't. Okay, well we'll switch to the wiki anyway. They've got various things you can read up on here about. If you have an Amiga 600, I guess there's a particular memory upgrade that you need to do before you can actually get it to work.
Mm-hmm.
And an Amiga 1000 with a piggyback won't work, but without a piggyback it will, or something along those lines. And there's, it's lucky that with the Amiga 500, there's the least amount of work to set it up. Because some of them have such strange profiles and hardware glued together that you might have to squish down a capacitor or remove a timer chip and try to reset the timer chip in there in a low enough profile that this thing would actually fit. But luckily with the 500, there is no such of that. This is a pretty painless installation procedure for this whatsoever.
Oh yeah. I mean, aside from being a nice socketed machine, there's also a lot of room in there to add stuff. So yeah, it's good for that. It was a fairly big computer.
Yeah, totally. There's a lot of nice real estate in there. There's one little capacitor that I thought I was getting jammed up against. So I did end up kind of prying it out a little bit so that I could get under there and flatten the capacitor. But then ultimately, I don't know if that's really my problem or not.
Okay.
Yep. So I guess with that, I don't know how much you necessarily want to play around with the stuff on here.
Well, I guess show us what you got, or
All
show us
right.
any demos.
The whole idea is this is the Amiga 500 on a big, huge VGA monitor.
Yeah, definitely. Now, unfortunately, I hadn't really prepared anything from the sake of the demos. Usually my favorite thing to do on here is to go into the text-to-speech program and just write funny words into it and see what all I can say. A buddy and I went up to the house for hours one night on Christmas vacation and just typed in all kinds of gibberish to see how it would say it. And I think it did a pretty good job with some of the longer words we gave it.
Oh, right, yeah.
Definitely handled it.
Because you learn to misspell it and get them to say it right.
Mm-hmm. And you could tweak
If
the
it doesn't
pitch.
sound right spelled right, then you just change the way it's spelled till you're finding it out.
Yeah,
Now it's
definitely.
saying it right.
Mm-hmm. Especially if you want to say it a certain way, you just type in the vowel in a different
Oh,
combination.
yeah, you got the thing you change, make it sound like Texan and all that. So, you want high pitched voice, deep voice, slow.
Yeah, you can definitely change the speed of the voice and the pitch of it, and
Mhm.
I guess male or female type of characteristics too.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I've got the guy who gave this thing to me had a whole bunch of floppy disks.
Good grief.
So I guess
Got a few.
if there's anything in here that looks interesting, anybody in the room, we could pop it in.
Well, pop in one of those, I guess, Amiga discs, and I guess we can see what it is and
Right, yeah.
pick a disc, any disc.
Let's see, maybe go with this old one back here. See if this is interesting.
Oh,
Maybe.
Electronic Arts.
It's only rock and roll by
It's
Electronic
only-
Arts.
Okay.
Now, we'll see how that goes. I was very sad to find out that my old time 7-Up spot game, some reason I think this disc got corrupted actually. It doesn't actually read anything, so that's sad. But
I think I see a Lemmings disc. Yep, I do.
there is I've got several Lemmings discs in here. So you can
Does
definitely
it work or
play
something?
Lemmings if you want.
It doesn't work.
Well, that one doesn't work.
Rock and roll.
Mm-hmm. Okay, interesting. I wonder if you have to set this thing up on a hard drive of some sort. Let's see what it wants you to do. So let's see. I mean, I guess we could pop in Lemmings, worst case scenario. Okay.
No, I like the rock and roll one. If we can get it working.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you got to copy the disc. I didn't bring my extra disk drive with me, unfortunately, but
Maybe we can try on the 1200. And
yeah, the sec we could.
yeah.
Next time around, I actually do have a second disk drive. I didn't think to bring it because I've never really used it for anything.
Let's first copy the disc. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to do something different with it, I think. But
Okay.
we could try the old Lemmings too, I guess.
Yeah, go for it. Pop it in.
Yes.
Hopefully this one doesn't require a setup procedure.
It might be doable.
Oh no, hard disk installing in.
No. Look at that icon though. I like
Mhm.
it. All those multiple floppy disks.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see if I can just run this one anyway without having to worry about it.
Yeah, give it a shot.
I didn't seem to like that, I guess. And
That's okay.
yeah. In any event, I can't think of anything else that's super duper like.
Well, let me ask you about your 500 for a minute.
Then maybe we might tinker with the 1200 for a bit too, because that's kind of an ongoing project.
Yeah.
Okay, so on your 500, you've got your flicker fixer, which is underneath the static protection.
Yeah, that was a little blue circuit.
That blue circuit right there. So that's what got us the VGA signal, which normally the Amiga 500 didn't have. It normally had a composite out.
Yeah, definitely.
It had the Amiga port, which looked a lot like a serial port, 25-pin serial port.
Mhm.
And of course, they're back in here.
Yeah, it was 23 pins. It's hard to find an adapter for anymore. Now, a lot of people, I guess, there are some folks that actually sell this. In fact, the Indivision site that makes the scan doubler, or actually no, is not the Indivision people, but the folks at Lehman Computing that I bought this from actually do sell a little 23-pin to RGB or SCART kind of adapter. But I guess even with the SCART stuff, you still got to convert a whole bunch and still doesn't look quite right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that one, I meant they probably just kind of shaved off the 2 pins on the end or something.
Yeah, a lot of times they have to because they can't find the 23-pin stuff anymore. The 23-pin DINs are impossible, or not DINs, but these kind. Now, this is actually the gender changer that came along with it. So I guess if you ever ended up finding a 23-pin cable, you could just go to town.
Yeah, indeed.
Mm-hmm.
So you got the VGA, which is on this, which was not normally a part of this.
Mm-hmm.
Was there any RAM upgrades or any?
We were trying to figure that out earlier because despite that this only said 512K on the board, it actually shows the 884 up there, and we were thinking that it might have had.
I think what it is, it's 512K chip RAM.
Right.
512K slow fast RAM.
Quote fast RAM, yeah, slow fast RAM possibly. So yeah, I guess a little bit of a memory upgrade in there too. I was planning on doing a memory upgrade. See if I could get it up to maybe 8 megabytes in there and just have some fun.
Oh yeah.
Because I guess the memory upgrade is worth even more than the CPU upgrade to get it up to the 14 megahertz. A lot of people haven't reported a whole lot of interesting behaviors off 14 other than sometimes it glitches out the software that's using CPU-based timer delays.
Yeah, I found a piggyback one on the processor, and it was a board that gave it like 8 mega memory. Plus it allowed you to have a internal compact flash. So it had a lot of nice little features to it.
That's cool. I'll have to check that out because if I could kind of simulate a hard drive with a compact flash, that'd be cool.
Oh yeah. So it's good stuff. So it's basically it's got the standard. Now that's pretty much a meg of memory. I want to say meg was pretty standard for 500s.
500, 2000,
Yeah.
1 meg.
So that much is good. And then see, you got that. You got I guess a standard OS. I noticed a lot of the wiring for the switch with the 7474 kind of goes to the processor and a couple other junctions to make it possible. Yeah,
definitely. I could try to clear some of that stuff out of the way. I was trying to find the actual circuit diagram for this stuff, but on a Windows machine, I couldn't really find a good, I guess, viewer for the IFF file format. Now on my Linux box, which is how I decoded this originally, I got it right up and figured out the whole schematic.
Nice.
Or I guess, with maybe some more searching on Google Images, might have actually come up with the right deal. But
you're actually trying to figure out which speed up that is?
Well, I was just looking for some documentation. Back when I first got this thing, I didn't know anything about what this all was doing.
I'll tell you what, you got 6 people online, so we can get a good shot of it. Maybe some of our people watching can help identify it.
Look for the big book of Amiga Hardware. The website.
Yeah, definitely.
He's got manuals and stuff for a lot of things.
So let me see what it says. This mod basically gives the same capability as the CMI accelerator board, price of $399 Australian dollars, because I'm reading Australian documentation, with the exception that it isn't software controlled. However, when it's only costing 1/16 the price, one can't really complain. So, this machine, one machine this mod was carried out on had trouble with one of the disk drives at high speed. It appeared to try to step ahead of the internal drive faster than the drive could physically move, and it would refuse to boot. But when he connected a drive with a 5 millisecond track access time and booted off of that one, the problem disappeared. So I guess he made a patch where it would slow down the step rate if you ended up experiencing that problem. So let's see. Keep the leads to the switch as short as possible. The circuit is relatively straightforward. The 7474 is wired as a positive edge triggered divide by 2 circuit. Yeah, so that commenter from the Netherlands had the right idea
Oh, yeah.
about what it's being used for. Divide by 2 circuit, which provides the alternate clock frequency of 14.18 megahertz approximately. The old 68,000 8 megahertz processor must be removed and replaced with the 16 megahertz version, which has clock pin number 15 bent out horizontally. So we can connect our circuitry to it. So I can try to remove this so you can see that again.
Yeah.
You can see in there that starting from 1, there's 15 down there, just
Okay.
bent out.
So we get on there.
Mhm.
All right. And very cool.
Yep.
Focus in.
So there's pin 15 right there. It's
Uh-huh.
bent out and got a nice little solder job to it. Then we have over here a single pull double throw switch, little SPDT switch,
Mhm.
which is either connecting the normal 7 megahertz signal or the new 14 megahertz signal to the 68,000's clock input.
Okay.
Now, the switch actually can be changed while the machine is on. However, it'll simply lock up. And luckily, this thing hasn't halted yet, so I haven't accidentally triggered that yet.
Good.
But when it does lock up, then just reset as usual from the keyboard, and then that'll take care of the speed change.
Yeah. Hang on a second. Let's just unwind this. There we go.
Yeah, so as for the rest of this, going into the pin of the Fat Agnes chip or this pin of the connector chip there, I couldn't really explain that a whole bunch.
Yeah. Okay. Well, some people have been wondering if this is like an add speed, and I don't think this is an add speed. Usually add speeds use the 68010
Mm-hmm.
because I tried tinkering with Atari ST version on the Amiga and it did nothing.
Interesting.
So I had to give it a shot. And
Yeah.
I may not have installed the software right too to activate it, but
Mhm.
this is something a little bit more rudimentary,
Mm-hmm.
like something that you could pretty much wire up at home.
Yeah, totally. Now to get the documentation for this, I had to go into the ABINE or whatever it was called, the AMINet stuff, and actually had to download the .lha zip archive and find a program that could handle the LHA files. Luckily on Windows, there's a program called 7-zip,
Yeah.
which is really good and actually opened the LHA file format for me. So then the next trick from that was trying to figure out something that could handle the IFF image format.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, I hadn't quite gotten that far on the Windows machine yet, but on the Linux box, it came up nicely.
Very cool.
So
Very good,
yeah,
though. If nothing else, this is giving a lot of good imagery for people to see. Another computer hacked up, and need to do more than it was really designed to do. Kind of cool
Definitely.
stuff.
Now, one thing they didn't dream of back then was actually having a floppy disk replacement. And so what we have here is the HXC 2001 floppy disk emulator.
Aha.
And this one on here comes with the standard 40-pin interface
Right.
and the convertible type of Molex connectors for the tiny versus big 5-volt power.
Sure.
And it also has this nice LCD display on the front of it so that you can actually see which disk image you're loading. And the 3 buttons on here allow you to flip back and forth between the disk images and then finally select.
Okay. It's kind of like the Motec drives or GoTech drives that they have, where they
Right.
have the selectable switches and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that it's even possible to take the firmware off of this guy and flash another piece of hardware which is similar capabilities with the same firmware, so you don't feel like paying $100 for this thing. You can go off and get the cheaper version of it with the same firmware.
Yeah.
But some people say that they like these ones anyway. And then actually I've got a slimline version, which people have reported using this one with success in the Amiga 500, because obviously if you try to put this one in there, well, you're going to be kind of blocked.
Mm-hmm.
So you really can't see the LCD screen. So
True.
you wouldn't know which image you're on. You have to just kind of guess with these buttons. So with this guy, you can stick it in there in the edge like this. And notice there's only one button on it. It's right here with the right angle approach that you can push it right from the front.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Mm-hmm. So the appropriate software on here, you could actually load up in kind of an Amiga I guess, a bootloader, so to speak, and it would actually allow you to select the disk image you want to load up with. So you could pick a workbench, I guess, or you could go right into a game if you wanted to. I haven't messed around with that yet, but it's possible that we could try installing it here live.
Mm-hmm.
I know that you guys like to install things live.
Oh yeah, I guess
Which
you've
I
seen.
felt bad about putting this in the first place.
No, that's cool. You had to make sure it worked, so not a problem at all. So you want to try to install that?
Sure, yeah. If you guys are game, we'll
I
try plopping it
definitely
in.
have no problem. So this is a would be a floppy signal and floppy power.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, knock it out.
So it should be fairly straightforward to put this in,
And
because on one of the boards that I was reading about, let's see, where was I? Where I was trying to get this going. I was at a few tabs before my machine blue screens.
so we got Creeping Death saying, "Do it live." We got
Good, we've got some encouragement.
we got 7 people watching now.
Good.
So I wonder if you could emulate 100 megabyte zip disk on that thing. Why would you want to? That's my next question. Zip disks are cool, but no, these SD cards and such, these are neat.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is that you should be able to emulate a 100 megabyte zip disk off of it. Not maybe off of this thing in particular, but I bet that 100 megabyte zip would run a lot faster off of an SD card than it did back in the day.
Oh yeah, amen.
Especially because I had the parallel version of that originally, and that was always super slow. I figured maybe the USB people got a little bit more speed off of it, but who knows?
Oh yeah.
After 2.0,
Mm-hmm.
the zip disk terrible on USB 1.1.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, USB 1.1 is pretty much good for keyboards and mice, and that's about
It's
it.
awful for data.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So let's, I guess, power this guy off, and so you can start messing with the hardware.
Yeah. Sounds good. Now, did you buy this specifically from somebody who had done this with an Amiga, or is this something you're wanting to see if you can get working, or?
There are people that have done this and reported success with Amigas. So
Okay.
this should go well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I imagine it would. I mean, I've seen a lot of modifications like this. So
Mhm.
That's cool. I think the only question I've got with it being so small is, I guess, how are you planning on mounting it physically?
Yeah, we will see how that goes in a sec. I'm assuming that what we could do is use the existing standoffs
Mm-hmm.
that are in this thing. And I'll have to take the keyboard out. It's nice how this is just so simple.
I want to see a totally, Creeping Death says, I want to see a totally pimped out 1.3 hard drive set up, but nobody does it anymore.
Mm.
Yeah, I have a SCSI zip connected to a GVP SCSI hard drive box. Funny that it looks identical to my parallel zip drive.
Yeah, I guess, weren't some of the early ones SCSI too? Because,
Oh yeah, definitely.
yeah, they had the really early Bernoulli drives and things too.
I was using Macs and STs, and those use SCSI.
Mhm.
Normally, of course, the other model was parallel,
Mhm.
and I didn't have anything that used parallel, so most
Yeah.
definitely SCSI.
Totally. So this was kind of interesting, actually, to take this whole Amiga over to Ace Hardware a while back and find these screws to go into this little spot so I could screw down the disk drive.
Sure.
Because I noticed that the thing was a little bit flaky, I guess. I would tend to touch the disk drive in spots, and I was kind of maybe superstitious that people were touching it and causing it to cause the GRU meditation errors. And especially when all kinds of folks were abusing this thing at the show, kind of made me think twice about taking something that hadn't quite been fully restored to the show yet. Because I know how to use it. Other people don't necessarily know how to use it. And you have kids that are coming up to this thing expecting it to boot instantly like their cell phones do. This thing takes a good 5 minutes to boot, as you know.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't just come up instantly. And so I'd flip the switch and immediately people are banging away on the keyboard. I'm like, no, it's not how these things go.
Can't wait.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of reactions did you get from them seeing this bit of retro tech?
Most of the kids just jumped on it like it was anything, but there were some adults there that were like, wow, I haven't seen one of these in a long time. They were pretty impressed.
I can imagine.
Mm-hmm. So let's see. Now, what I was kind of hoping is that these little standoffs would actually come off of here. Now, I didn't bring a pair of pliers with me. Anybody got some pliers or something I can twist these off with?
They have some in the car.
Mhm.
So, if one can, well, take over, or I could just put this on a stand.
Mhm.
I can go get my toolkit.
Yeah.
So,
You can hear my wife scolding me now. Why didn't you bring a multi-tool? She
Right.
would have one if she was here, but.
All right, we'll proceed on. I will get my toolkit.
Mhm.
We really did, we had all that stuff.
Yeah, Dad was
That is bags and
there.
bags of stuff.
Mhm.
I have a whole pile of stuff I don't have.
Oh, geez. Yeah, nevertheless, I guess I should still be able to plop this in anyway
Oh, yeah.
and go to town with the old pin 1 and 2 being just lined up as such.
Well, we can go to commercials, one of the sponsors.
Nice. So who's sponsoring us tonight? Now this is kind of interesting because this little edge here seems to be the little key edge, on the floppy cable seems to be pressing up against this board such that I can't really get it in there. Now it's
Is that thing
possible.
marked with a 1 for Tiger's Pins 1?
Yes, it does.
The ribbon cable should have a red edge for number 1.
Yes. Yeah, and unfortunately the key is,
Still goes the wrong way. Oh.
yeah, the key would, well, this one, I guess that's interesting because I had it like this to begin with, despite that the groove is up here on this side of the board. So that's pretty odd, but yeah, because I would have had it in there like that originally. So the key of the cable is facing down. There's this kink in there that doesn't go away. It's clearly been like that for a
No,
long time.
yeah. It's like,
So, it's possible that I could take these double row of headers.
You said there's a 1 in there?
Yeah, there's a 1 that's right here, 1 and 2.
Oh, okay.
So maybe with a flathead screwdriver, I could take this double row header pin and kind of pry it up. So if I pry it up, then we could fit that key underneath there. Unfortunately, I don't think I brought a flathead with me either. Although, oh, you know what? Well, don't tell him. Yeah, unexpected things in the bag, huh? Oh no, I do have a flathead. Okay, cool. Other things. So I'm gonna try to get the smaller end out of this so I can get to the smaller size flathead. And I'm gonna try to get underneath this dual row header thing, kind of pry it up so that I can get the key underneath there. And the trick is to do this without also bending up the pins in the first place too. Boy, this thing is probably not going to support that. I think I'm going to have to bend some pins anyway. Erg.
There's always a chance they've been free to cut that guy off.
Yeah, we could always just cut the guide off too, for sure. I was hoping to avoid that. All right, starting to be able to bend this up a little bit. Seems pretty wide though, really, compared to when it's not letting me get underneath it too well. But let's give it another shot anyway. Okay, good. So got it on. Then I can plug in the power. Oh, this is weird. The power seems to be keyed too, so might have to just.
Everybody's welcome to these sweet potato fries, by the way.
Cool. This seems a little bit backwards to me because now it's showing that the 5-volt would be over here on the close pin, and yet it's keyed up to prevent me from getting that to happen as well.
Huh. Okay.
Now, I thought that people wrote about having good luck with this thing on an Amiga, but
No mention of it being keyed crazy, huh?
yeah, I guess not. So I'd sure hate to plug it in backwards and fry something. So as we look at this guy here,
Just think of the video with that though.
yeah, that's true.
Wait a minute. Let's see here. See if we have any comments from online here. Okay. Really, blah, 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 blah. Okay, no comments yet.
Alrighty.
So, all right,
We're
cool.
watching carefully, they're excited because they say, we're seeing history we're making it.
Yeah.
Don't pick your eyes off, you might miss something.
See, you think it'd go that way.
Yeah, definitely. You'd think it'd go this way. What I can do then maybe is just take this and flip it around. Hopefully, right?
Going, you know, that part should be easily adjustable.
Yes. Now, let me just make sure I positively flipped it around the correct way. Make sure it didn't undo itself a whole bunch. Okay, yes, this is now backwards from how it was. So, there, both sides are now backwards. Yeah. Now let's see, the floppy disk has a pretty wide enclosure here. So as I try to cram this to the edge, unfortunately the cable is so short I can't just cram it up to the front one. I have to put it in the back one, I think. I'll be able to put in one of the standoffs. And I'll try this guy here.
Okay.
Hopefully this will come undone. Okay, good. Seems to be, oh man, made quite a gash in there, that all looks like.
Oh, really? Quite a gash in the actual piece.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's part of the cost of doing things that are interesting. Now this came up from here, so this would go in there. Okay, I guess I need to have a little nut on this thing to actually finish it off.
Right.
So
That's love on that.
that's a weak sauce. But anyway, I guess what I can do is still push this in through the bottom. And
Weak
then
sauce.
screw in the standoff again. Oops. Yeah, I'm a hot sauce guy. So weak sauce becomes appropriate terminology.
Does that require software to work?
Which one, the HXC thing?
Is that going in?
So to some extent, yes, on the Amiga, it is helpful to have a little piece of software to kind of act like your bootloader. Because and actually, yes, you'll need software to load it up with the images anyway, because the disk images are in a file format called HFE. And what you can do in the computer software is to use their program to copy whatever files you want to onto a disk image of whatever image size you want. It could be sold as a 160K MS-DOS 1.0 kind of image.
Yeah.
Or on up to a 2.88 megabyte double size of floppy disk or so on. And you can go on and make whatever you want. Now for the Amiga stuff, there are already files in the Amiga format. I guess whatever they call that, I'm looking up in a second. I do have to plug my laptop in. It's got 9 minutes of battery left before it dies.
Yeah.
So where is there it is, the strip.
Yeah, You had to plug mine in too.
Yes, definitely. So the Amiga ROMs in the file format of ADF, Amiga disk format, I guess. So you can download these ADF files onto your computer, and then by taking the SD card out, they're plopping into the laptop, then you will, voila, have these nice images on there. Now you'll have to convert the ADF files into HFE files first, and there's some software that'll help you do this. So
they actually won't work as ADFs. You do have to convert them.
yeah, definitely. So
I'm sure the conversion is pretty quick though.
yeah, totally. So let's just, I guess, as a little sanity check, we could try turning this guy on and making sure that it tries to ask me for the workbench disk. And meanwhile, I'll get up here and show you the site that I'm going to try to download some things from. So let's turn this on and see what happens. I guess before I turn it on, I'm going to make sure that nothing along the back is shorted out. So I'm going to stick this under there.
Good idea.
Actually, I might have to forego the little standoff thing and just run it like this because I don't know how much well, I guess the back is fairly open. There's still some of these vias back there. I don't know if I trust.
Yeah.
That would stink if they made contact and shorted it out. So, all right, let's get this going. Okay, well, I see a nice little LED light up there.
No magic smoke or anything escaping, so that's good.
Seems like it, but what's odd is to, hear an Amiga, or to not hear an Amiga boot up, right?
Oh, it's nice.
Yeah, no more scratching or clawing away at the disk. But yeah, clearly it's waiting for the workbench disk, so that's a good sign. You can try to find a workbench disk image now, or see how it goes. So as it goes, there's a forum post I'm going to be following along. I guess I could leave it on the table.
Yeah.
So you're kind of panning it down there anyway.
I just pan it down there, yeah. Just operate as you got to operate. I can just do it as we do.
Forum post on lemonamiga.com. Setting up the SD card for an HXC Slim on an Amiga 500. It's basically the thing that I'm following along with.
Right.
And then over here is a website called planetemu.net, which supposedly has various ADF files that you can go on and download. And I think the screen panned up somehow.
We're still on it.
Okay, cool. Just showing a different window, I guess. Yeah, so here's the planetemu.net site. So you can go through here and find some interesting ROMs to go and try to put on there. Now, the HXC software, let's see if it's going to come up from the start menu stuff. The floppy emulator manager, I've already have it downloaded, so you can go to this thing.
Okay.
And hopefully this little tiny guy is the program that we would use to convert the ADF files into the appropriate HXC format. Then, now that we've got this guy, the last piece that we need is the floppy disk emulator manager type of thing. Let me see if I can find a screenshot of that somewhere. So basically, this is what it should come up with, a little listing of all the different...
In black and green, huh?
Wow. Yeah, I guess they made it look retro, possibly.
And maybe look like an Apple too.
Yeah, why would you even want to bother?
Right?
Yeah, so let's see what we've got here. So I'll run the downloader real fast, and so the floppy emulator manager is this guy, and I guess okay, so it's got Amiga in it already, so I can take this HFE file and probably put it right in there. Now let's see if there's anything in particular I need to do with the CFG file. So copy and replace HXC SDFE.cfg and autoboot.hfe. Okay, cool. So I'm now going to open up the SD card. Where'd it go? It's not there. Let me try pressing it in again. I've had this laptop for 6 years, and the only real problem that it has is that sometimes the SD card doesn't quite come up the first time. So sometimes you gotta kind of cycle it through a little bit before it does. So let's see, I got it in here nice and good. And there it goes, finally taken now.
Ah, it sees it.
So yeah, in the meantime, I'm going to take all this stuff this is how I emulate an IBM 5150 floppy disk, because, I don't trust my disks to actually work properly. I think a lot of them are suffering from media rot. And, 5.25-inch drives and, having to find one drive specifically for 360K is hard to find. I don't necessarily trust the drives to be clean either, because I got them all out of a warehouse where the guy was kind of dirty.
Was 360, that was double density, right?
Yeah, just double density disks. So you got all the 1.2 meg, high density disks I want. And of course, got a lot of drives that I trust, but with the double density stuff, not so much. So this has made my life a lot easier for the IBM scene as well. So let me just cut these files, and I guess I'll find a different spot for them on the desktop somewhere. Then I can take the 2 files from my downloads and put them in there. Okay, so that's good. Now, let's just see how this goes.
All right.
So I'm just going to yank that out. And
hang on a second. So you're going to put it now over into the drive.
Yep. Just insert that in there.
Yep.
It's got a nice little snappy fit to it.
I can see that, yeah.
Nice
Nice little springy effect.
Yep. And there's a beep.
Beep.
Don't
Got
remember
the
beeping
little
before.
LED lights on.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see how it does. See if it recognizes anything.
Okay, still asking for Workbench, unfortunately. So let me
Here's
see
a
if I
question.
can.
On that particular one, is there like a toggle to select like a disk image or anything like that? Because on the GoTex, they have a type where you select the disk position or a disk image.
Mm-hmm.
There's a switch on it.
Yeah, there is the front switch. I don't remember what the front switch one of this one does. So
Now, it looks like is this an array of toggles here?
yeah, it's possible that I might need to actually set up some dip switches on this thing for it to be recognized as the Amiga.
Okay.
So let me turn this off and actually do a little bit of something called RTFM.
RTFM, which is?
Read the effing manual.
Hey, I find it fun to try it, and then if I get stuck, then read the manual.
Now, this could actually be interesting because of those dip switches.
Toggles here. See, I've got dip switches, and of course that's where you put in the SD card right there. We're thinking that we may have to toggle these dip switches here.
But then you need like a menu image to be copied first, the SD-ROM, like in the GoTex.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Are you familiar with the GoTex drives?
Not a whole lot.
Oh, GoTex are great. They're basically what they were a type of drive that replaced floppy drives for synthesizers. And they just reprogrammed them for Amigas.
Cool.
And so you could use rather than using a floppy drive, you could use a USB jump drive. Matter of fact, I can show you, sorry about that, I can show you my GoTex. And I'll give you an idea. But to be able to put that setup to work, you had to select on the toggles a disk image. It would come up to a boot menu. And after the boot menu, you would select your drives, and then you would, here it is.
Yeah, but the boot image has to be copied first to
So here we have the GoTex.
the ROM.
Oh, interesting.
So this is the GoTech. It plugs in like a regular floppy,
Mhm.
and you just put in a jump drive,
Mhm.
and then you would use these buttons to toggle the number for the disk image.
Mhm.
And you first bring it up. You would select what images would go with what numbers,
Mhm.
and then you would restart it after. Of course, you'd like select disk image 1 or 2 or whatever,
Mhm.
and then it would load up that disk image. So, yeah, these replacements for floppies are excellent. And
Yes.
so, us GoTech users are just kind of wondering for something like this, if there's some kind of toggle, either with these dip switches or with something that you'd have to select a disk image somehow. Or maybe we're just complicating things. Never know.
Yeah, you never know. Now you know it's possible that this could have been the stuff for the other one, because what it's telling me is that the right button, center button, and left button stuff, which doesn't apply to this particular one here because it only has the one button on it. So
We have another version here of the RFM, read the fine manual.
yes.
That was Aaron saying that. About a beige case GoTech, it doesn't
I
like
thought it was
my...
rich text format.
Huh? Let's see. Curie says, I bought the beige case GoTech. It doesn't like my flash drive for some weird reason. An old 320 gig external hard drive is what I use. Enough to hold all my Amiga disk images ever.
Yeah, that would do it for sure.
Oh, yeah.
The funny thing is, I guess that this documentation is coming to us from France, I guess, and so it's hard to find parts of the website that don't just link to things that are in French.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
Be able to use Google Translate?
Yeah, we could. So let's see, Amiga support. HXC. Amiga DOS asks for a floppy by name that's inserted.
Mm-hmm.
Right button. Can't load any apps using a real external floppy combination. How do I fit this? It does a lot of things. I just want to know how to get started. Keyboards and samplers support. So USB SD card. I guess, they've got a USB version of it too.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like that guy, where you can just plop in the...
Like a jump disk or something like that. Yeah, flash disk.
Yep. And the SD card actually does support writing to it though, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's see, that floppy emulator, bought it off of eBay from a guy named Lotharek.
Okay.
Lotharek. I guess is how you can end up getting these.
Check it out. Now, if you look at that picture, I don't know if you can increase the size of that picture up to the right.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually the mounting stuff for your current setup.
Mm-hmm.
See if you can pull that up just a little bit bigger. That's actually how you'd mount it.
All right, cool.
They made a bigger enclosure that you can attach it to, and then screw it into place like a floppy.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so having the old mounting hardware probably wouldn't hurt.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to shoot for that for Christmas, maybe.
Well, all you need to do is just take like a little piece of wood or metal and drill some holes in it, and that just increase the size of it. Somehow attach your small board to the plate or whatever, and then screw the plate in. So
Yeah.
I mean, it just depends on how fancy or non-fancy you want to be about it.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, quick disk install images. What do we have? And now this is going to download a bunch of stuff on here. SD card, HSC, floppy emulator, firmware, disk station, ADF Opus, Amiga floppy image browser. So probably want to get that too.
Well, here's the theory, okay?
Mm-hmm.
If it's not the dip switches, then kind of like on the GoTech, how it comes up to a boot menu, there's probably a little file that it would default to.
Yeah.
Some kind of default menu file.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of expecting that to do. Let's see, Eric, create type of ADF, interesting. Okay, so I don't know exactly what this is supposed to be doing. It's browsing. Or if it's going to let you actually make an ADF file on your own, which could be interesting for some other time.
Mhm.
Boot. Here's a BBK, whatever that's supposed to do. And the help file, let's see what this says. Oh no, old school help.
Let
Too old of help.
me ask you this, what do you got on the SD card right at this time?
So on the SD card, I actually cleared it all off to have the .hxc file and the .cfg file that was recommended
Mhm.
by the website. I guess it was the forums, I think, not necessarily.
Mhm.
Or was it this guy? I don't remember. Some site told me to do this, and so I did, and now it's not working.
Just thought of something.
Mhm.
Go back to that picture where it shows the mounted slim drive that you got.
Mhm.
See how much you can magnify that. I mean, really, really magnify it. And let's take a peek at what their dip switch settings are.
Yeah. Let's see what we can do. An Amiga 600 floppy drive retrofit.
Ooh,
Now.
that'd be perfect.
Mhm.
Zoom in as much as you can. Oh yeah, that's a nice picture. Yeah,
Mhm.
that'll probably tell us what we need to know.
It looks like
All
down,
switches
down,
are
down, down.
okay. So the dip switch settings should be correct.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so far so good with that.
Mm-hmm. All right. So then
And-
it has to be a boot image.
Mm.
This is probably a piece of hardware, again, to replace a floppy.
Mhm.
And its internal setup would have some kind of executable file.
Mm.
And being that it's already switched into the right mode, it should just fall down to whatever you've got on the root directory of your SD card.
Yep. Oh, and now of course Planet Emu is blocked on the proxy here because it's games.
Yep. Now, if you need to get it, I can give you my cell phone
Mm.
to.
Get some
Tether off
tethering on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that
You need
might
to
be
get
good.
there?
Sure.
Hang on a second. Let me get you.
So I got my own tethering theoretically, so it's okay.
Either or. I just get this hooked
Does that
up.
device have a recommendation on a minimum kickstart?
No, it didn't say anything about a minimum kickstart.
Huh.
But I'm going to try to.
Okay, I'm turning on my tether.
Okay.
All right. We'll have this up here in just a second.
Cool.
My name is it's going to be Control.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
All right.
Now do you have a security key?
Yep. And there's the security key.
Okay.
All right.
So nobody can read that on screen, I guess.
Nope.
So it's such an angle where you can't
Camera's
tell.
not that good.
Mhm. All right, so we'll try this again from the standpoint of finding ROMs.
We've probably got about 10 minutes left before we're going to start packing up. So
Mhm.
let's give it a go.
Yeah. So let's see, as we're in Amiga, now we're trying to find some applications, games, hard files. Let's try this. Okay. Word perfect. About Workbench. Let's see, Workbench Degrader, Workbench Tutorial,
Mm-hmm.
Workbench Management System.
You said that this requires a different format, like a HPE?
HFE is the name of it.
HFE, yeah.
Mhm.
Now, I wonder if HFE is the type of format that this slim drive uses. And if it's actually looking for an HFE file.
Right, well, it's got the one default master loader HFE on it, I think.
Okay, cool.
Let's see. Oh my goodness. All right, well, now it's telling me all these things in French, I would assume.
Ah,
And now this word telecharger, like whatever that means. Telecharger?
Gadget.
Yes.
Google.
Let's just make sure.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't mean that I'm signing my life away. I'm just going to go load a bunch of spyware on my computer.
Well, it's an old computer.
Yeah, well, this one I'm not so concerned about viruses because you just reboot it and you're good.
That's right.
All right, 1 second per 1,000 kilobytes of downloading. Well, we're pretty far from that, given how old this thing is. Okay, let's try it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. So now we've gotten the workbench on the ADF file. Now, with converting the ADFs to the HFE format,
Mm-hmm.
so now we'll take the card out of here, plop it into the side of this guy, and if this doesn't work, we can always try the big boy one, I guess, with actual 3 buttons, just to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so now,
That one's more of that one right there is more of a IGE adapter, right?
well, it's just yeah, it's enclosed, I suppose, rather than being just plain old straight headers.
Okay.
So it should still be the same, though.
Actually, you're right. Yeah. All right. We can try that.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll. Let's see how time goes.
Mm-hmm. So now I'll load the raw image, and well, now I was hoping that it would.
Is that the conversion program?
Yeah, this
Okay.
is.
The HFE to ADF converter.
Yeah, now I'm going to try to find some help on this because we want to load or create a custom floppy, but it's only giving me IBM and stuff like this as the options, which you don't really want. And you could also try to just do a batch converter. So we want the target file format as HFE. We don't want batch like this, I guess. We'll load a raw image. Now we'll load a floppy file image. It's going to be an HFE file format, I guess.
Okay.
So my downloads. Now it's probably zip this. Gonna unzip it. Let's extract here. A500 workbench for this. .adf, it recognizes there's 84 tracks. Let's export it to this. And we'll just put it right on the SD device. So I'll call it workbench 1_2. Okay, now hopefully, and now let's see what it did. Let's verify everything on here. Workbench 1.2 is now a 2 meg file, just like the others. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
So I can plop this out. We'll give it one more go over here.
Right.
Make sure it's nice and in there, and then we'll try to light her up.
Okay. And beep. Okay, let's see how that goes. Yeah, if not, there's always next month.
Yeah, I guess not. Now the LED looks like it's flickering at different, like it's pulsing a little bit. Maybe it's trying to read from that.
It's trying to read it. Yeah.
I would imagine. Now what we can try to do is actually just use this in the other one. So I'm gonna unplug these things.
Mm-hmm. Now, does this other converter also use the same AFE, HFE files?
Yeah, these are the same make. Basically, they're
Same company?
well, it's by Lotharek.
Oh, yeah.
Designed by
Both have white,
yeah, designed by
circuit boards
JF
and
Del
everything.
Nero in the both cases. Yeah. So they're both HXC folks. So that's cool.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm. So let me try plopping this in there. It should be the right direction in this case. It says groove pin number 1 right in here. And then I'll make sure that our ground is lined up in the same manner. I guess.
I imagine it probably would be.
Yeah, because now this was in like this last time.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, which one of these appears to be connected? It's hard to say exactly. So, yeah, I'm guessing that would probably still be backwards. So I guess we'll be fine. Let's take the old SD card out of this one.
Okay.
Plop in this guy. Not such a nice springy action. This one just kind of slides in. Notice it's a different looking type of engagement in there.
It's a lot simpler.
Okay.
All right, we got power.
SRAM test failed. No HFE disk image found. That's no good.
Okay. Now, the question is, can it use that kind of adapter okay?
Should. Let me twist this guy around and just make sure we didn't have this thing in backwards or something.
Well, it powered it okay.
Yeah. I'm imagining it probably wouldn't get power in this case if... Oh, there we go.
Excellent.
So I guess it was backwards.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so autoboot.hfe is going to do what? Makes me wonder if we had it in here backwards for this one anyway.
Could be.
Yeah, so it's entirely possible. So let's see with this guy.
Got to probably select the drive.
Yeah. Well, that's odd. I don't see the other HFE file on here. Let me just plop it back into this guy.
Now, what is the auto boot HFE file?
So the auto boot I thought was going to be the thing that would take you down into this screen here.
Sure.
Oh, God, no, I'm not doing that right now. All right. So.
Give it just a few minutes.
Yeah, totally, right?
Yeah.
Now let me try jamming this in there again. Okay, so yeah, it has this one in there. Let's try renaming it just so we avoid any kind of like 8.3 issues maybe.
Yeah, maybe like remove some of the numbers in it.
Yeah, or something like that. Now it won't let me rename it, which is weird.
Mm-hmm.
That is odd.
Let's see.
What on earth? Where'd my magical rename feature go? Well, let's see if we can just do it like the old-fashioned way then. Sometimes when the GUI wants to play tricks on you, just use the old CLI.
Your current thing that you have connected up here reminds me of a drive I have for my Atari 800.
Yeah.
And the way that one works is you would select it on the on the display, and you would lock in the actual drive. You know, these three buttons would have various features like that.
Nice.
I'm thinking that's probably the way this one works.
Yeah, it could possibly be. Although I'll show you this one in particular, so you can select back and forth your disk images, I guess, in alphabetical order using the left and the right keys.
Right.
And then this one is like your drive door there in the center.
Okay. So that middle one would be the one that would be like you closing the drive door.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so that's the way it would work.
Let's see, copy workbench to wv12.hfe. And it refuses to play nice with me, so let's just try this again. So I see, the rename option wasn't there because I had this on read-only mode last time. That's the problem. So now we can do this, and we can eject it.
Okay.
And let's try it again once more. Without doing the read-only mode would be great.
Yeah.
And now I'll turn this guy on. And there's auto boot.
Got the auto boot.
Let's see how that guy goes.
All right, so
Still doesn't seem to want to let me select the other one for some odd reason.
Okay.
It's weird.
See if it'll let you select the, yeah, okay, so you're on auto boot right now, right?
Mhm.
And no love on that one.
No. Though it makes me wonder about
About the other one.
trying the other one
Yeah,
again.
plug it in one last time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna be about it, I guess.
We've managed to narrow down exactly how the thing's wired, so that's,
Mhm.
let's see how it does this time. All right, so let's get that going. There we go. Plugging it back up.
Yep, and then we'll take the SD card and put it in there, and let's see what happens. This thing fries itself, we'll know what the deal is.
Right?
Okay, so this is a red light coming on.
Red
Let's see,
light,
it's nice
steady.
and solid. It's not
Steady
pulsing
light.
like it was before.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Software very.
Well, something else happened, huh?
Yeah. Press left mouse button to continue. All
A
right.
little groove meditation. So we'll have to play with this some more later, I guess. Let's get a
Excellent.
little closer now.
Yep, it at least sees a disk image that it couldn't read.
Yeah.
So we're getting closer.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So yeah. So Stephen Wiley, right?
Yes.
Well, man, it's been a pleasure. We'll have to do more of this next month.
Totally.
It's been fun. And it's been cool seeing another possible replacement for floppy disks.
Mm-hmm.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me out.
Oh yeah. And let's just switch this over here for good old goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, this has been not the July meeting, but the August meeting. I got that wrong here. I got a whole lot of things wrong. I was trying to get this thing set up in a hurry. So anyway, thanks for joining us, all of you who have been on the home chat. And those of you who will check us out later. And now we're going to go do our board meeting, which usually involves going to some restaurant and passing out 3 sheets of paper and then eating food. So good stuff. It's actually fun. So thanks for all checking in, and we'll see you all next month. First Monday, usually, unless something changes, but we'll be in touch. Take care.